Discover the incredible journey of a poor Japanese boy who transformed his life by creating Honda. In the aftermath of World War II, Japan was a place of shattered dreams and heavy hearts. But for 12-year-old Kenji, it was a playground for aspirations. He lived in a small rural town where whispers of progress were drowned by the echoes of despair. Every day, he stepped outside, feeling the weight of poverty pressing down on his small shoulders. But he wouldn't let it dim his dreams. His father, a war veteran, taught him the value of hard work. Never give up, he always said, his voice a gentle reminder of hope in their garden of strife. But when his father's health began to fail, Kenji felt the world crashing down around him. The man who once stood tall was now frail, his resolute spirit tempered by illness. Kenji's little sister looked up to him, eyes wide with innocence, while his mother's daily sighs grew heavier. "You're the man of the house now," his mother said, trembling but proud. It wasn't a title he wanted, yet it filled him with a determination he didn't know he possessed in a society that treated ambition as a luxury. Kenji's curiosity for machines stood out like a bright flame in a dismal room. He gathered scraps, bicycle parts, and nothingness transformed into visions. "One day, I'll build a motorcycle," he announced to anyone who would listen, though most simply laughed, their jeers cutting through his confidence like razor blades. But Kenji wasn't alone. Mrs. Lawson, an elderly neighbor, offered encouraging words. "Chase your dreams, dear," while his friend Aiko stood faithfully by his side, always ready with a smile. "You can do it, Kenji." The dream of building a motorcycle illuminated Kenji's days. He toiled late into the night, surrounded by shadows of doubt. With nothing but a few coins in his pocket, he approached the local shopkeepers, hoping for assistance. "What a foolish boy," they'd laugh, brushing him away with dismissive hands. Conversations in school echoed the same sentiments. The rich kids snickered, a living reminder of the wealth he would never know. Each shut door felt like a personal blow, but Kenji held tight to his family's sacrifices, his mother's tired smiles, his father's weak laughter. These were the fuel that kept the fire of perseverance burning in his heart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He was close, so close. Just days before he planned to pitch his prototype to potential investors, disaster struck. As he revved the engine for a crucial test run, the heart of his creation shattered, and the dreams he had woven with love fell apart. Despair washed over him like a torrential rainstorm, leaving him gasping for air. The laughter of his schoolmates replayed in his mind like a cruel melody. Could he rise from this ruin? Yet, as he sat there amidst the wreckage, Kenji remembered his father's words, urging him to find resilience. In that moment of utter vulnerability, he realized something profound. True strength lies in seeking help. Just then, an unlikely ally, a rival from school, extended a hand, offering a few forgotten parts. Hope flickered inside him. Maybe, just maybe, this journey wasn't just about his motorcycle but about uplifting his family and community too. Standing at the edge of hope and despair, Kenji prepared for a new path. Would he channel his pain into purpose and redefine what success meant? The weight of his dreams pressed against him, yet somewhere deep within, he felt the stirring of possibility. The question loomed: could he transform not just a motorcycle, but the very essence of his dreams? Kenji awoke before the sun broke the horizon, the night's grief still fresh in his mind. He stretched out, the weight of his dreams resting heavily on his chest. His room, cluttered with scrap metal and sketches, became a sanctuary of determination. This morning was different. He felt a flicker of hope in the pit of his stomach. With a renewed spirit, he picked up the pieces of his shattered creation and examined them closely. Each dent, each scratch whispered a lesson, nudging him towards clarity. The pieces needed to fit together, but he lacked the tools and the knowledge to make it happen. As he stepped outside, the cold morning air filled his lungs, invigorating his resolve. The townsfolk began their daily routines, their faces weathered by the trials of life. Yet he spotted Mrs. Lawson sweeping her porch, her smile as warm as the sun breaking above. "Kenji," she called, her voice brightening the dawn. "I heard what happened. Don't you lose heart. You have that fire in you." "Thank you, Mrs. Lawson," Kenji responded, a small smile breaking through his earlier gloom. It reminded him of his father's words, the currency of hope he kept tucked away inside. The gesture sparked something in him. Ready to harness that spark, Kenji grabbed his worn toolbox, a simple wooden chest filled with forgotten tools. He started walking. He would visit the shops again. This time, he would face the doubters head-on. Each step on the path felt like a heartbeat, steady and determined. At the first shop, an older man, Mr. Tanaka, was sorting through boxes. Kenji took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of support surrounding him like an embrace. "Mr. Tanaka," he began, voice trembling with both fear and excitement. "I'm rebuilding my motorcycle. I need parts and advice." "To build a motorcycle, you need more than parts, Kenji. It takes brains, too," Mr. Tanaka replied, brow furrowed as he considered the boy standing before him. "I know that," Kenji insisted, "but I need your help. I want to create something that can bring joy to others. Something to ride with my sister, something to you think just because you want it, it will happen?" The shopkeeper's tone was harsh. Kenji felt his heartbeat quicken, the sting of rejection surfacing once more. "I believe it can. And I promise to work harder than ever." Kenji pressed, courage bubbling inside him like a rising tide. Suddenly, the man softened. "All right, kid. I'll guide you. You bring your diagrams and let us see what we can make together." Kenji couldn't believe it. Those words lit a fire in his heart. He rushed home, head spinning with possibilities. This was a collaboration of dreams, not just his own but powered by the wisdom of experience. Later that day, they began trading ideas, sketching out plans over tea as the evening crept in. Days turned into weeks, filled with laughter, setbacks, and small victories as they sourced parts. Kenji began to feel a sense of community emerging, the way everyone rallied to help him. His sister would bring cookies to share with Mr. Tanaka, and the local boys gathered to watch the progress. Each day added a layer to his resolve. One sunny afternoon, standing on the edge of their little town, Kenji felt different. No longer just a boy with a dream, he was forging his path. This motorcycle was no longer just a machine. It began to symbolize his family's resilience, his community's support. But as the days rolled on, revealing bursts of joy, a nagging question lingered. Was he building a vehicle for freedom or an anchor that could keep him deeply rooted in this small town? Kenji's heart raced as he stared at the parts scattered on the floor before him. Could this creation lead him to bigger dreams? Or would it tether him to a place where dreams often flickered and dimmed like the lights of a cold winter night? The days turned into a blur of sweaty brows and greasy hands as Kenji and Mr. Tanaka continued their work. Every afternoon after school, Kenji would rush to the shop, ready to dive into another session of rebuilding his motorcycle. Each turn of the wrench felt like a step closer to a dream that seemed to seep deeper into his veins with every passing day. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Mr. Tanaka leaned back in his chair, wiping his brow. "You're making great progress, Kenji. I don't know when I've seen such dedication." Kenji grinned, the corners of his eyes crinkling with pride. "It's not just for me. I want to take my sister on rides. To see the mountains, the lakes, to explore. She deserves that." Mr. Tanaka nodded, clearly impressed. "Family is a powerful motivator. Just remember, it will take more than just hard work. You must be ready for the challenges. This motorcycle, it's more than just metal and wheels. It's a part of you now." As they picked through the box of assorted parts, Kenji felt an echo of doubt creeping in, an old, familiar friend. What if he couldn't finish? What if it broke down? What if those what-ifs wanted to bind him like chains? But then he thought of his sister, her laughter echoing in the wind, the the sun in her hair, and the joy on her face when she would finally experience the freedom he envisioned. That thought pushed back against the doubt, the flame within him roaring stronger as the weeks flew by. Other townsfolk began to notice the transformation in the old shop. Young boys would gather outside, peeking through the window, caught up in the magic of creation. They looked at Kenji with admiration, often asking questions and offering help with small tasks. One late afternoon, as shadows stretched long across the ground, a few girls from school wandered by. Seeing Kenji working, they paused, curiosity painted on their faces. "Hey, Kenji," one called out, holding a lemonade. "We heard you're building a bike. Can we watch? Maybe give us some motivation to finish faster." Another chimed in with a twinkle in her eye. Kenji laughed, shaking his head. "Just join us, and I'll show you." With that invitation, laughter mingled with the chatter of gears and metal. Kenji felt an unexpected warmth swell inside him, realizing this was more than just his project. It was a community effort. Everyone seemed to be drawn in, their lives interwoven with his dream, however small their contributions were. But amidst this blossomed hope, a wave of anxiety washed over him again. Would this be his life? A boy in a small town, building dreams with friends, while the world beyond called to him. What if his motorcycle became a tether rather than a key to unlock greater horizons? One stormy night, while blue lightning cracked across the sky, Kenji lay in bed, the sound of rain pounding against his window. Each drop seemed to echo his thoughts. He thought of Mr. Tanaka's words, of what lay ahead. It was then he decided. He needed to make this journey not just for his sister, but for himself. Not merely a machine, but a chance to chase dreams that seemed to flutter just outside his reach. With renewed resolve, he clutched the sketches he had drawn, visions of roads yet to travel, landscapes yet to see, feeling a hint of determination trickling back into his heart. Tomorrow he would cement their plans, each step forward fueling the fire. But as he drifted to sleep, the question loomed large. Could a motorcycle truly set him free? Or would it simply remind him of the chains he feared to break? Kenji woke the next morning to a world glistening with raindrops. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a shimmering light that danced across the puddles outside. He felt a rush of excitement. Today was going to be different. After breakfast, he hurried to the shop, his heart racing with a mix of anticipation and nerves. The sound of familiar tools greeted him, and the smell of warm oil hung in the air, wrapping him in a sense of belonging. Mr. Tanaka was already there, elbow-deep in a grease-streaked engine. "Good morning, Kenji," Mr. Tanaka called, his voice booming over the clatter of tools. "Are you ready for the next step?" "I am," Kenji said, a confident smile spreading across his face. Today, they would begin assembling the parts he had so painstakingly collected over the weeks. It felt monumental, like the moment an artist lays the first brush strokes on a canvas. They began the task ahead with a rhythm, Kenji's hands moving instinctively as he followed Mr. Tanaka's guidance. Each piece slid into place with satisfying clicks, turning his dream into something tangible. With each tightening bolt, he imagined the rush of the wind against his skin, the freedom of the open road ahead. While Kenji worked, his sister's laughter echoed in his mind, reminding him why he was doing all of this. He envisioned her, hair flying wild, as they left behind the confines of the small town. But as the bike began to take shape, a new wave of doubt reared its head. "What if it's not enough?" he murmured, trying to shake off the unease. "What if we're not ready for the journey?" Mr. Tanaka paused, sensing the shift in Kenji's energy. "Kenji, listen to me," he said, his voice steady. "Every journey begins with a single step. You have to trust both the bike and yourself. Doubt will always try to creep in. It's how you respond that matters." Kenji took a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words settle in his chest. He realized that freedom was not just in the ride. It was also about overcoming doubt and embracing the uncertainty that lay ahead. As hours slipped by, the bike transformed from a skeleton of metal into something that felt alive. Friends from the neighborhood trickled in, drawn by the eagerness in Kenji's eyes and the buzz of excitement in the air. They brought laughter, stories, and even an extra pair of hands, turning this solitary dream into a community event. "You're building something special, Kenji," one of the girls exclaimed, wide-eyed at the sight of the skeleton coming together, each connection solidifying a shared dream among them. "Just wait until we take it for a spin. I'll be the first passenger," teased another, and the air filled with playful banter. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with soft pinks and creams, Kenji stood back to admire their work. The motorcycle took on an aura of possibility. It wasn't just metal anymore. It was hope, excitement, and a road filled with adventures yet to come. But as twilight wrapped around the shop, Kenji felt the flutter of uncertainty again. What lay ahead? Would the bike actually run? And, more importantly, would he have what it took to really chase the dreams whispering at the edges of his mind? With the last rays of sunlight fading into night, Kenji held on to that question, knowing the journey was only just beginning. What if the road ahead was both wondrous and terrifying? What awaited him in the wake of that heart-pounding first ride? The next morning arrived, cloaked in a soft mist that clung to the air like a promise awaiting fulfillment. Kenji stepped outside, the coolness brushing against his cheeks, invigorating his spirit. Today was the day they would test the motorcycle. The thought sent a thrill dancing down his spine. He arrived at the shop early, anticipation buzzing in his veins like electricity. The fragments of metal and the unique heart of the bike shone brighter in the morning light, calling him to ensure they were ready for their debut. Mr. Tanaka soon joined him, his presence a solid anchor amid Kenji's swirling emotions. "Are you ready?" Mr. Tanaka's voice held a gravity that made Kenji's heart race. Kenji nodded, gulping down the well of nerves. "Yeah, I think so. Then let us give it a try," Mr. Tanaka said, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. The assembly had seemed monumental, but now the idea of starting the engine loomed even larger. Kenji knelt beside the bike. He could feel the weight of his dreams pressing down, each moment tinged with hope and fear. "Remember what we talked about," Mr. Tanaka reminded him gently. "The journey has risks, but it's also filled with chances. Today you're stepping into a new world." He slowly turned the key, the metal feeling cold and alive under his fingers. The bike sputtered, coughed, and then nothing. Silence wrapped around them like a thick blanket, his heart sinking. Kenji's breath caught in his throat. What if it really isn't enough? "Try again," Mr. Tanaka urged, patience lacing his tone. With renewed determination, Kenji twisted the key once more. This time, a low growl came from the engine, building like a thunderstorm. The sound echoed off the walls, igniting a spark of excitement in the air. "It's alive!" he yelled, grinning from ear to ear, energy surging through him. Friends began to gather, curiosity bubbling in the air. They wore bright smiles, eyes wide with wonder. The collective anticipation was palpable. Kenji could feel it. He was no longer alone in this dream. "Let us take it out," one of his friends shouted, laughter rippling through the crowd. Kenji mounted the bike, uncertainty holding his heart tightly as he gripped the handlebars. The world seemed to fade away. Here he was, surrounded by friends, ready to leap into the unknown. "Are you okay?" Mr. Tanaka called out, looking concerned yet proud. "Yeah, just give me a second," Kenji replied, feeling the weight of the moment that he couldn't shake the doubts. What if the bike fell apart? What if he failed? But then he remembered all the laughter, the hard work, and the glimmer of hope lighting this journey. With one deep breath, he let go of the hesitation, choosing trust instead. He pressed the throttle gently, and the bike surged forward, breaking through the confines of his anxiety. They rolled out of the shop together, the engine roaring beneath him, a whirlwind of exhilaration trapping him in its grip. The world stretched ahead, wild and green, and as the first gust of wind whipped against his face, Kenji felt alive. Joy bubbled up within him. He was doing it. They were flying. But as they sped down the street, a flicker of doubt crept back in. What would happen when the thrill wore off? What lay further down that winding road? With every twist and turn, Kenji felt the weight of these thoughts. He was on the brink of something beautiful and frightening, and he was ready to embrace it, or was he? As they rounded a bend, the unmistakable sound of sirens pierced the air, pulling Kenji back into reality. What awaited them at this corner? Would it change everything he had begun to believe in? The blaring sirens sent a ripple of fear through Kenji as he glanced over his shoulder. Red and blue lights flashed like stars in a darkened sky, the brightness contrasting starkly with the carefree moment they'd just been riding on. His heart raced, and he felt the weight of his friends behind him, their expressions morphing from excitement to concern. "What's happening?" one of his friends shouted above the roar of the engine. "I don't know," Kenji yelled back, panic creeping into his voice. He tightened his grip on the handlebars, attempting to steer the bike to the side of the road. But with the sudden tension, his focus blurred, and his heart raced with unnameable fears as they pulled over. Kenji could feel the adrenaline spike, mixing with shame and dread. What if the bike wasn't roadworthy? What if it drew unwanted attention? He managed to slow the motorcycle, its engine echoing weakly before falling silent. "Just stay calm," Mr. Tanaka advised, pulling up beside him with a reassuring nod. "They might just want to check the bike." The officer approached, a tall figure silhouetted against the blinding sunlight. His sunglasses reflected a mixture of authority and curiosity, making Kenji's chest tighten. Fear sang in his veins, but he forced himself to breathe. "Is this your bike?" the officer questioned, his tone even. "Yes, sir," Kenji replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "We just finished repairing it today." The officer raised an eyebrow, his gaze darting to the rest of the group. The laughter and lightness that had enveloped them just moments before vanished like mist in the morning light, leaving only the weight of the situation pressing down upon Kenji. "License and registration?" the officer demanded, crossing his arms. Kenji fumbled in his pocket, his heart thumping painfully against his ribcage. He had anticipated the adventure, the thrill, not the sudden realization that he may be crossing boundaries he didn't fully understand. He didn't own the bike officially yet. It had been all about dreams and hopes, not paperwork. He stammered, feeling the pressure mount. "Still in my father's name. We're just testing it out." "Step off the bike, please," the officer instructed, his gaze steady as Kenji dismounted. His friends exchanged uneasy glances. Mr. Tanaka moved to stand beside Kenji, a protective presence blending with Kenji's mounting apprehension. "Keep it cool," Mr. Tanaka whispered. "Just explain everything." Kenji felt the crowd gathering again, the faces of his friends becoming a blur. He swallowed hard as they looked at him, their eyes filled with faith mixed with fear. He needed to rise above the anxiety, to turn this moment into a lesson, rather than a setback. "Sir, we wanted to take it out for a spin. We've worked so hard to fix it," he started, finding his voice. "We wouldn't ride it if we didn't think it was safe." The officer looked taken aback, perhaps surprised by Kenji's sincerity. "Do you have any proof of purchase? Anything at all?" Kenji's mind raced, searching for something within the chaos. But, in his heart, he struggled with a deeper question. Did he still believe in the journey he had just embarked on? He glanced at Mr. Tanaka, who nodded encouragingly, as if to say that everything would turn out all right. But could he truly stand by his dream if it was caught in the clutches of doubt? "Just give me a moment," the officer said, stepping back to make a call, leaving Kenji standing amid his dreams and fears. What lesson was he to learn here? In that fleeting moment, he realized that sometimes the path to a journey doesn't just require momentum. It needs clarity and responsibility too. The laughter faded, replaced by the silence of reflection. Kenji's determination swelled within him, breaking through the fog of uncertainty. This wasn't just about the bike anymore. It was about who he was becoming as the officer returned. Poised to deliver his verdict, Kenji's heart beat wildly. Could this moment shift everything? Where would it lead him next? The officer returned, his expression unreadable, the weight of the moment crashing down on Kenji like a heavy wave. He felt everything around him freeze, the sounds of the engine, the chatter of his friends, even the distant honking of cars. It was just Kenji, the officer, and an unspoken tension pulsing between them. "All right," the officer said, his tone low and measured. "I've got some information from dispatch." He paused, observing Kenji closely. "Seems like this bike has some issues on file. It was reported missing last year." Kenji's heart sank. Those words struck a chord deep within him. All the shadows of doubt he'd pushed aside came rushing back. But he shook his head, trying to make sense of it all. "No, sir. We repaired it ourselves. My friends and I just wanted to give it a nice ride. Not what the record shows, kid." The officer's voice was firm, but there was an undertone of understanding too, like someone who had once made mistakes of their own. "You need to understand, riding this bike could have serious consequences." "I know," Kenji blurted out, desperation spilling from his lips. "But we worked tirelessly to fix it. I believed it was okay." Kenji noticed his friends shifting nervously, exchanging glances filled with confusion and worry. Mr. Tanaka stepped in closer, sensing the bubbling tension. "Please, officer, can we at least explain our situation? We're just a bunch of kids trying to make our dream come true." The officer hesitated, the fight in Kenji's chest pushing him forward. "I'm sorry," Kenji continued, voice cracking, "but this is more than just a bike to us." He glanced back at his friends, their hope radiating like a beacon in the chaos. "It's about friendship, teamwork, a promise that we can create something great together." There was a brief silence. The officer's expression softened as he observed the determination etched on Kenji's face. Kenji felt vulnerable, yet somehow stronger, too, fueled by the fire of his friends' unwavering belief in him. "Look," the officer said finally, "I'm gonna need to take a close look at this bike. If it checks out and doesn't have any of the issues on the report, maybe we can work something out." Relief washed over Kenji. "Thank you, officer. Thank you so much." But as the officer walked toward the motorcycle, Kenji's pulse quickened again. He hadn't escaped completely. What if the bike had a hidden flaw? What if this moment of hope shattered into disappointment? As the officer knelt to inspect the engine, Kenji's mind raced. He thought about everything he was risking. The bike wasn't just a ride. It was a part of him, a symbol of the commitment he had to his dreams. He had started this journey to find himself, to prove his worth, and he couldn't allow it to slip away just like that. The moment stretched on indefinitely. The air was thick with expectation. It was suffocating, and Kenji felt a wave of doubt threaten to pull him under. But in that quiet chaos, a fierce resolve ignited within him. What if this was his chance? If they could prove the bike was safe, it might change everything. But if he failed, where would that leave not just him, but all of them? As Kenji clenched his fists, determination coursing through his veins, he wondered how far he was willing to go to protect his dreams. Would he risk everything to fight for them? Would this small moment turn into the pivotal step on his way towards becoming the man he wanted to be? Just then, the officer stood up, his face set in a serious expression. "I need to make a decision," he said, catching Kenji's eye. "But before I do, I have to ask, how much do you really care about this bike?" Kenji's breath hitched. What would he say? And at that moment, everything hung in the balance. The officer's question echoed in Kenji's mind, bouncing around like an electric spark. It wasn't just about the bike, but everything it represented: the grit, the laughter, the moments spent with his friends elbow-deep in grease and dreams. "I care more than you'll ever know," Kenji answered, surprised even to himself with the intensity in his voice. "This bike, it's not just a machine. It's hours of hard work and laughter, and late nights figuring out how to make it run again. It's a piece of our collective hope." The officer studied him, the light playing off his badge as the wind picked up, rustling the trees overhead. The crowd around them was murmurously anxious, eyes darting between the officer and Kenji. Kenji could almost hear their collective heartbeats, a chaotic symphony of tension and hope. "Hope?" the officer mused, brow furrowed. "Hope doesn't fix mechanical issues, son." His tone softened. "But it can motivate you to find solutions that I can respect." Kenji felt a glimmer in his chest. Could this man finally understand? He had guarded his vulnerabilities tightly, unsure how they might fall on the ears of someone like this officer. But somehow, he felt a connection build, as if they were both staring into the chasm of their past mistakes. "Let me show you," Kenji said, stepping forward as the officer raised an eyebrow. He motioned to his friends, and they sprang into action, grabbing tools and examining the parts of the bike. Together, they began explaining the improvements they had made: the new spark plug, cleaned carburetor, the adjustments to make it smoother on the road. Kenji could feel his heart racing, mixing hope and fear into a potent blend of belief. "A bike like this isn't something you just take for granted. We care for it because it's part of us," Kenji continued, passion igniting his words. "And there's power in that isn't there? More than numbers on a report." The officer listened, his gaze moving from Kenji's eyes to the bike and back again. It was as if he were weighing the dreams and determination of a group of kids against a sheet of paper that declared the bike's past. Finally, he cleared his throat, a small grin teasing the corners of his lips. "I'll be honest with you, kid. If this all checks out, I'll do my best to help you keep this bike. But your journey doesn't end here. There's a lot to learn about making good choices." Kenji felt his chest swell as his friends exchanged excited glances. "We'll prove to you we can handle it," he said, his voice steady. "This bike, it's just the beginning for us." "All right," the officer replied with a nod. "Let us see just how well you fixed it then." With that, the officer stepped back and examined the bike further, looking for anything the boys might have overlooked. Kenji held his breath, the anticipation mounting with every passing second. This was it. A chance, a small, fleeting moment that could change everything. Then, as the officer put his hand on the throttle and turned it, a beautiful roar emanated from the bike. The sound filled the air, stronger and more powerful than Kenji had ever heard. Cheers erupted from his friends, the joy and relief washing over them like a warm wave. But the officer's face turned serious again as he turned away from the bike to face Kenji. "Wait a second, though. There are still some things you need to learn." Kenji's heart began to thump again, a fresh wave of uncertainty crashing over him. What now? Did this victory come with strings attached? Kenji prepared himself, realizing that winning this moment would mean everything. But could they handle the lessons that followed? Kenji stood there, his heart racing. The cheers of his friends felt like fireworks in the night, but the officer's serious expression cast a shadow over his joy. What could the officer want him to learn? "Look," the officer began, his voice steady, "I'll let you keep the bike, but with that comes responsibility." Kenji nodded without a second thought. He needed this chance. "I know," he replied. "We won't let you down." The officer sighed heavily, crossing his arms. "It's not just about the bike. It's about choices. You have to make the right ones, especially when no one else watching." Kenji swallowed hard. Behind those words lay layers of truth. He remembered the nights spent talking under the stars with his friends, dreaming about their futures. Were they just words? Or did they mean something deeper now? "I promise, we'll show you we can be trusted." The officer looked into Kenji's eyes, searching for that flicker of sincerity. "Good. But there's more. I want you all to come together as a team, build something substantial. It's not enough to fix a bike. You need to understand why it matters and how to work together." Kenji glanced at his friends, their expressions shifting from joy to determination. There would be challenges, he was certain of that. He felt a new fire ignite in his belly, a blend of excitement and fear. "What do you want us to do?" Kenji asked, eager to take the first step. The officer pointed towards the nearby park, where a community center stood resolutely next to a playground. "There's an old storage garage behind it, full of junk. I want you and your friends to help clean it out. Restoring that place could teach you valuable skills and help the community. You need to understand what it takes to build something from nothing." Kenji glanced at his friends, nodding every few seconds, absorbing the task ahead. "We can do it." The officer smiled slightly. "Then let us see how you tackle this. This is your first test. Remember, every small act counts." With invigorated spirits, Kenji and his friends rallied together. They grabbed gloves, trash bags, and determination. As they made their way to the garage, laughter punctuated the air, filling the void left behind by doubt. The garage loomed large and neglected, covered in dust and the kind of forgotten dreams that turned to cobwebs. Kenji felt a wave of apprehension crash over him. Could they really transform this? As they pulled open the creaky door, a gust of stale air hit them. The sight was daunting. Broken chairs, stacked boxes with faded labels, tools half buried under layers of dirt. But among the mess lay potential. Something in Kenji clicked. "Let us divide and conquer," Kenji suggested, pulling everyone close. "Sam, you handle the tools. Ava, start clearing out the boxes. I'll take charge of sorting out the junk." They all exchanged glances, the unity bringing a smile to Kenji's face. Just like that, under the dust and noise, a collective heartbeat started to form, a promise of cooperation and resilience. As they worked, Kenji couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was more than just cleaning. It felt like starting anew, like laying down the first brick in a path towards something bigger. Each piece of trash they collected felt like a burden lifted, not just from the garage but from themselves. Hours passed, and before they knew it, the space transformed. Shadows danced on the walls where light broke in through the dirt-smudged windows. They stood back, a mix of satisfaction and disbelief washing over them at their hard work. "Can you imagine what else we could do?" Kenji said, tinged with awe. "If we can change this, what else is possible?" But just as hope started to swell, the officer reappeared, his face unreadable. "That was great, but don't forget this is just the beginning. How will you keep the momentum going?" Kenji's stomach twisted slightly. The officer was right. They had only scratched the surface, and now they needed a plan. What's next? Kenji whispered to himself, the spark of possibility igniting anew in his heart. As days turned into weeks, Kenji and his friends dove into a rhythm fueled by purpose. Together, they transformed the forgotten garage into a vibrant workshop, a hub of creativity bursting with laughter and determination. With their skills growing, so did their camaraderie, each success sparking a deeper bond. One day, as they gathered around a makeshift table piled with blueprints and ideas, Kenji felt a rush of inspiration. "What if we open this space to others?" he proposed, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We could teach kids how to fix bikes, build their own creations." The group exchanged glances, the weight of the idea settling among them. "That's brilliant," Ava exclaimed. "We can share our journey. Maybe they'll find their dreams too." With a sense of urgency, they set to work, expanding their efforts beyond the confines of their small circle. Recruitment flyers were made, inviting the town's youth to join them, to learn not just about machines but about resilience and friendship. It felt like planting seeds of hope throughout their community. When the big day arrived, a spirited crowd gathered outside the newly dubbed community workshop. Parents stood proudly, while kids fidgeted with excitement. Kenji stood at the front, heart racing as he faced them. This was his moment. "Welcome, everyone," he began, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "Today, we're not just going to fix bikes, we're going to build dreams." His statement hit the crowd, a wave of encouragement washing over him. They split into teams, mixing familiar faces with new ones. Kenji felt a warmth envelop him as laughter echoed through the space. He took a deep breath and dove right into the chaos of bolts, tubes, and wild imaginations, guiding them along the way. The once dusty garage now thrived, full of color and creativity. Days blurred into nights filled with teamwork and triumph. They designed bike races, art installations, and group projects, each moment a stitch connecting their community tighter. As the renovations came to life, Kenji's heart swelled at what they had created together. This wasn't just about the bikes anymore. They were building a culture of hope, resilience, and support. And amidst it all, he discovered something valuable: his own growth. But like any journey, obstacles remained. One evening, a vicious storm swept through town, dumping rain and winds that rattled the workshop. Kenji watched in despair as water seeped through the garage's cracks, threatening to destroy what they had built. Panic surged. Would all their hard work wash away? Yet, amidst the chaos, he remembered the wisdom of his father. "In storms, we find our strength." Rallying the team, they banded together, working through the torrent to protect their creation. They patched up leaks, moved supplies, and reinforced the structure. It's okay to be afraid, Kenji reminded everyone, but let us show fear we're not backing down. That night, they soldiered on with spirits high. United, they learned the value of perseverance. The storm passed, leaving darkness behind, but it also left a renewed sense of purpose. Each young person stood taller, eyes gleaming with the realization that they could withstand anything together. As sunlight glimmered through the skies on the following day, they emerged from their refuge, and their spirits soared. The workshop still stood. Cheers erupted, resonating like music in Kenji's heart. They had not only safeguarded their dreams, but they had solidified bonds of friendship that would last a lifetime. Months flowed by like a river of possibility. Kenji rode that bike, newly spruced and gleaming, feeling the wind in his hair as he traversed the roads with his sister. With every mile, they explored the beauty of wider horizons, discovering hidden trails where laughter echoed and memories blossomed like flowers. While Kenji reveled in this newfound freedom, he also understood something vital. True strength lies not just in the dreams we chase, but in the people we surround ourselves with. His community was his foundation, a network of love and support that lifted him higher than he ever imagined. Standing at the edge of a hill, overlooking the townsfolk gathered below to celebrate their successes, Kenji felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This is just the beginning, he whispered to himself, realizing that with hard work and a supportive family, anything was possible. And as he embarked on new adventures, he'd always remember that first ride, the moment he found the power of belief, friendship, and a dream that changed everything. Join this journey of transformation with Kenji today. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Real fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.